I'm just going to roll and then, all right?
Let's do it.
All right. Give me a cue on when to start.
Action.
I need one of those clapboards. Hello, everybody. I'm Frank Malitz, and I'm the CEO of the Bob Carver Corporation. Bob is my partner and a loving character, so I have a lot of fun with him. But today I'm here all alone while Bob is resting. Our products are completely different than anything else in the world. This sounds like hyperbole. And I don't like myself when people talk like this, but I'm going to prove it in a couple of minutes. Before I do, I want to mention that Bob Carver is singularly the most famous living audio designer in the world. And whether we go to Thailand or to Detroit, everybody knows who Bob Carver is. Look, he brought out the first 350 watt amplifiers that we could afford. At that point, Macintosh, magnificent company, their most powerful amplifier was 150 watts times 2. This guy comes out of college at 350 watts times 2. He then develops the first sonic hologram. He develops a noise reduction system that doesn't have downsides when you're playing records. It'll get rid of the noise on the record without compromising the fidelity. He introduced subwoofers that you could almost hold in your hand if you're very strong, because they weigh about 70 pounds, this big, that shook buildings. So there's been just one innovation after another. He also made amplifiers, are the only amplifiers in the world that will track the requirements of the load using his tracking power supply. And this gives advantages in terms of efficiency and also the ability to deliver enormous amounts of current. And those amplifiers under the Sunfire brand at that time, it's a different company than today. Bob sold that company. Those are load invariant, so they'll drive any loudspeaker ever manufactured by anyone. So what we're doing today is also emblematic of his talents and his abilities, because nobody else in the world can do what I'm about to tell you about. And I'd like to start with the amplifiers. If you'll follow me over, Mr. Photographer. These are our Crimson or Raven 350s. As you can see, these are the Crimson ones, more or less. And they're unique. There aren't any other amplifiers in the world like these. Let me tell you why. The big argument against tubes is, first of all, they degrade. All the time while you're listening, little by little, they degrade. With some of the high-end brands in our industry, it can cost $2,000 every 2 years to change your tubes out. All right. Number two, they tend to be expensive. Well, tube amps are expensive because they're built to a higher standard. They're bought by enthusiasts, not by the general public. So usually the components are more expensive and higher quality, but they use transformers. They're heavy and they're very expensive. Probably the most expensive thing in the system. Well, that's an argument too. And they get hot, don't they? We've beat all these issues. Watch me now. These are KT120s. These are very powerful tubes. I can hold my hands on top of the tubes all day long and not have to go to the hospital. You need to understand that these are the only amplifiers in the world like this that you can do this with. What good is that? Well, obviously, it's not heating up the room. But moreover, the internal temperature of the amplifier is just a little warmer than the inside of your mouth. As a result, the amplifier does not wear out. So we're giving a 15-year warranty on the amplifier, but it includes tubes. Our main competitor gives 3 months warranty. We're giving 15-year. Now, there's a meter on the front of these amplifiers. It's not a watt meter. It's a tube meter. It's a tube checker. It's not your grandpa's tube checker from the drugstore, because it's actually testing the tubes with full energy from the power supply. If you get a bad reading, you get free tubes. I've only been Bob's partner now with this endeavor for about 3 years. This series started about 8 years ago. In the 8-year lifespan of the product, we've given out 3 tubes. We also have no service department because we've never had a failure. So we're talking like Yamaha integrated amplifier reliability in a tube type amplifier that doesn't get hot, sounds great, and comes with a 15-year warranty. As far as sounding great, I don't think that there's a company out there that the CEO would stand here and say we don't sound great. So, you can take my word for it. But Dick Olsher from Stereophile said they were the most important tube type amplifiers in decades. And Absolute Sound magazine has given us twice Product of the Year. And the late great Harry Pearson from Absolute Sound, the founder, said they were the greatest amplifiers of all time. Now I would like to introduce you to the loudspeakers because they're also unique. These are the amazing line source loudspeakers. Absolute sound basically implied they're one of the greatest accomplishments in the industry, and I appreciate that, but those were prototypes. These are far superior, so I get a big kick out of that, I have to tell you. But what makes them different? There are other line sources, and there have been through the years. They never sold terribly well, but they do give you a cylindrical wavefront. I want to expand on that a little bit. As Bob's analogy, I think, is the most appropriate. If we took birthday candles and stuck them all in these grooves here, and if the base, instead of being black, was a mirror, and we put a mirror on the ceiling, when you'd look down, you'd be kind of looking down into infinity. In the old hippie days, the kids used to smoke pot, and they would look at a mirror that had lots of lights in it, and it was a window, and there were mirrors inside, so they could see like into infinity for whatever it was worth. But this is kind of interesting. First of all, when you look down, and this is, let's say, the same, sound is the same as light. It's still about waves. When you look down, you're looking at the negative infinity. And when you look up, you're looking into positive infinity. Now, I was incredulous when Bob told me about it, so I checked it with my son, Dr. Eric Malitz, who was a PhD in physics, and he said, absolutely, there's negative and positive infinity. I didn't know that could happen. Well, what's the point? The point is that the wavefront starts at negative infinity. That's the center of the Earth, essentially, and outer space on top, on the positive infinity. Now, obviously, that's not mechanically possible. It's arithmetically possible, and we can prove it easily. But what's the benefit to you? The benefit is that if you go down to the hall, and we're at this wonderful hi-fi show with all these wonderful products, those speakers are all what we call direct radiators. As direct radiators, they produce a conical sound field. So the sound stage is hunkered down and low, depending on how high the speaker is. In our case, it's a cylindrical wavefront from floor to ceiling, coming at you as a vertical cylinder and enveloping you. So that's very positive, because what do we look for in a loudspeaker? We want openness, as well as accuracy. We're doing something for the accuracy that's never been done before. There are 36 moving coil drivers, 18 per tower. These are 2.5-inch diaphragms, little tiny woofers. They're pointing the wrong way, so we should have a lot of boundary effect, and even with this movie, you can hear the difference between this and with this. Now, you may not be able to see it, I'm not sure, but there's no wall treatment in the room. We do not permit wall treatment at shows, and yet the speaker's omnidirectional, and it's bouncing the sound off the walls. So how can we have a natural sound? Well, all speakers are microphones, and all microphones and all speakers kick electricity back into the amplifier. The nature of the electricity, what we call back EMF, that goes back to the amplifier, gives us the ability, and also by mimicking the intraoral delay between your two ears, according to the spacing of these drivers, we can actually subtract the room coloration and leave the room sound intact. This has never been done before. No one else knows how to do it, and it's done passively without any electricity going through the system and no digital technology of any kind.